Every Monday, an old woman bought coffee for a stranger, for 15 years. No one knew why, until the day she didn't show up. Every Monday morning, before the sun had fully risen, 78-year-old Margaret walked slowly down Maple Street in a quiet American town. She wore the same brown coat every winter, carried the same small leather handbag, and smiled at everyone she passed. There was one thing she never forgot. Every Monday, she stopped at the same coffee shop. Without looking at the menu, she always said the same words. 2 black coffees, please. The young barista smiled. 1 for you, and 1 for your friend? Margaret simply nodded. She carried both cups to the corner table beside the window. She sat down with 1 cup. The other remained untouched. 10 minutes later, a quiet man in his 60s walked into the cafe. He never ordered anything. He simply sat across from the empty chair, picked up the untouched coffee, looked at Margaret with grateful eyes, and quietly drank it. Neither of them spoke. Not a single word. After finishing the coffee, the man stood up, smiled gently, and left. The customers were always curious. Some believed they were family. Others thought they had once been lovers. But no one knew the truth. This strange routine continued every Monday. Week after week. Year after year. 15 years passed. The coffee shop changed owners. Employees came and went. Even the furniture changed. But Margaret and the stranger never missed a Monday. One rainy morning, a new waitress finally asked Margaret, "Can I ask you something?" Margaret smiled. "Of course. Why do you buy coffee for someone who never even talks to you?" Margaret looked out the window. For a long moment, she stayed silent. Then she softly replied, "Because some debts can never be repaid with money." The waitress didn't understand. Margaret simply smiled again. The following Monday. Margaret never came. 9 o'clock passed. Then 10. The stranger entered the cafe as usual. He looked toward the corner table. It was empty. For the first time in 15 years. There was no coffee waiting. The cafe owner slowly walked toward him holding a small white envelope. "Margaret asked me to give you this, if she ever stopped coming." The man's hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. It read, "If you are reading this, it means I have finally gone home. You probably never knew who I really was. 30 years ago, during the war, my only son was badly injured. His unit believed no one had survived. But you refused to leave him behind. You carried him for miles through freezing rain until you found help. You saved his life. When my son came home, he told me about the brave soldier who refused every reward. Years later, I accidentally recognized you walking through this town. I wanted to thank you. You refused. So I made a promise to myself. Every Monday, I would buy you a cup of coffee. Not because coffee was important, but because gratitude should never disappear. Thank you for giving me 30 more years with my son." The man's eyes filled with tears. The entire cafe became silent. No one moved. No one spoke. The stranger folded the letter carefully and placed it inside his jacket. Before leaving, he quietly whispered, "I should have thanked you too." The cafe owner stopped him. "There is something else." She handed him another envelope. Inside was a photograph. It showed a young soldier carrying another wounded soldier through heavy snow. On the back, Margaret had written, "Heroes rarely see themselves as heroes." The man stared at the photograph for several minutes. Then he smiled for the first time anyone had ever seen. The following Monday. The customers noticed something unusual. The stranger returned. He ordered 2 black coffees. One for himself. One for the empty chair. He placed a single white rose beside the second cup. Every Monday after that, he continued the tradition. Sometimes people asked who the second coffee was for. He always answered with the same sentence. For someone who taught me that kindness never truly ends. Months later, the story spread across the town. People began paying for strangers' meals. Students left thank you notes for teachers. Neighbors helped elderly residents without expecting anything in return. One woman's quiet act of gratitude inspired an entire community. Years later, after the old man also passed away, the coffee shop kept one small table by the window. It always held 2 empty coffee cups. Above the table hung a simple sign. Kindness lives longer than the people who give it. Visitors often asked about the meaning of the table. The workers smiled and shared Margaret's story. Some people cried. Others hugged their loved ones before leaving. Because they realized something important. Life is not remembered by the money we earn. It is remembered by the lives we touch. Sometimes. The greatest love stories are not about Roma. NCE. They are about gratitude. About sacrifice. And about never forgetting the person who changed your life. So before today ends, take a moment to thank someone who once helped you. Because one small act of kindness can echo for generations.